This lab will give you hands-on practice creating customers and jobs. For this lab, open the file called landworks_customers_lab. First, we'll add a new customer, and then we'll set up a couple of jobs for that customer. On the home page, click Customers to open the Customer Center. Click New Customer and Job, and then choose New Customer. In the customer name field, type Jones, space Rick. Since this customer list in this company file has names with last name first, that's how we'll type it to be consistent. We'll leave the opening balance blank as recommended by accountants, and this is a residential customer, so there is no company name. But let's fill in the full name. So Rick, and press Tab to go to the next field. Tab, Jones. We can also skip the job title field. So let's add a main phone number. However you type it, that's what it will look like, even on reports. So if you like to put parentheses around the area code, do it consistently. If you like to see dashes, just do it consistently. I like spaces, so type the area code, space 555, space 8756. And now we'll add the address where the invoices and bills will be sent. So click to the right of the customer name that QuickBooks has entered for you and press Enter. Let's type the street, 222 Main Street, and press Enter. And type the town, Sparkles, California, and the zip, 90087. And click Copy to copy that address to the Ship To address. And you can confirm everything here. You can change the address name, but let's leave it as Ship To 1. Click OK. To add more than one shipping address, click the plus sign. For example, this customer has a P.O. box and sometimes requests that you use that address. In the address name field, let's change it to Rick's P.O. Box. And add the address, so P.O. Box 222, and the city, same city, Sparkles, California, 90087. Let's click OK to save this one. QuickBooks shows you the address here, and if you want to switch back, just choose it from this menu. So the first address you enter is considered the default shipping address. And that means that this address will automatically appear in any shipping address fields for this customer. At any time, you can choose another address for this customer on the actual form. So on the form, you would see this choice, and you would also see the P.O. Box choice. If you wanted to make the other address the default address, choose it here and click Default Shipping Address. So now this is the address QuickBooks would use by default on an invoice. Okay, moving on to the Payment Settings field, let's click that tab, and we'll start entering the payment information. This is a new customer, so let's set a credit limit at $2,000. And let's set the payment terms as due on receipt. QuickBooks can warn you when this customer exceeds the credit limit, and then you decide how to proceed. As for payment terms, QuickBooks will let you know when a payment is overdue. We don't have any price levels set up yet for this company, so let's skip that. And for preferred delivery, let's leave it as none. And the payment method is check. So for this company, invoices are presented to the customer at the end of the job, usually in person. In this case, the company owner would hand the invoice to the customer, and since it is due on receipt, he'd wait for the customer to write the check. And let's leave all the credit card information blank. Let's go on to sales tax settings. This customer is not a wholesaler or reseller, so he is taxable. So we'll leave it as tax. And the tax item would be state. And this customer doesn't have a resale number, so we can leave that field blank. Let's click Additional Info. The customer type. This customer is a residential customer, and they heard about you from a web search, which you are trying to track that information, so let's choose web search. So it shows up as residential web search. There are no sales reps in this company, so we can leave that blank. And just for fun, let's create a custom field. So click Define Fields. We'll create a field for birth date, so you can send a little birthday greeting. And you want to use this field for both customers and vendors, so click in each of those fields and click OK. And you can read the message and click OK. Now you can see that the field is here, and let's enter the birth date, 08/13. So let's move on to the Job Info tab. Rick is hiring you for only one job, so we can fill in this tab on the customer record. So for the job description, let's type install drip irrigation. And job type is residential. And job status is in progress. For the start date, you can either type it in manually or choose from the little calendar. Whenever you open the working file for this lab, QuickBooks sets the date as today. So depending on when you are working on the lab, the current date will vary. Let's choose March 14th as the start date, and the projected end date as March 16. And later, when you have the actual end date, you would come back to this record and fill it in. So click OK to save the customer record. And you can see the new customer in the customer list. Let's pretend that time has flown by and you finished this job. So in the customer list, double-click the customer. On the Job Info tab, enter the end date, which, as it turns out, was March 16th. You can also change the status to closed. Click OK. Rick was so pleased with the work that he asked if you'll do another project. When you first entered the customer, you assumed there would be only one job for this customer, so you entered the job information directly on the customer record. But what now? He wants another job. If you fill out the Job Info tab for the one and only project, and later decide to create other jobs for the customer, all is not lost. When you add another job to a customer with a job in the main customer record, QuickBooks moves that job out of the customer record and into a new job called Job 1. So let's add the second job for the customer. So with the Jones Rick selected, go to New Customer Job and choose Add Job. And here QuickBooks tells you that it's going to move the existing job information and assign it the name Job 1. Click OK because we're going to set up a second job. For job name, type Install Fountain. And we'll ignore these tabs and just click the Job Info tab and type the job description. Let's type Install Fountain. It's a residential job and the job status is pending. So since the dates have not been talked about yet, let's just click OK. Now you can see the two jobs are now indented under the customer name. But Job 1, that's not a very descriptive title, so let's double-click this and change the job name here. Just call it Install Drip Irrigation. And click OK to save it. So that's it for this lab. Go ahead and close the Customer Center.